Before Nathan Drake went into uncharted territory, before Lara Croft was raiding tombs, it was the duty of the courageous adventurer Harry to avoid many dangerous pitfalls. Yeah, okay, that was pretty bad, but Pitfall might just be one of the most iconic games for the Atari 2600. Released in 1982, it's yet another game developed by David Crane. We covered the NES title A Boy and His Blob in episode 39 of Our Story So Far TV. David Crane has a reputation in the games industry, and it pretty much began with Pitfall. He'd made a few other games prior to Pitfall, but this was the game that really put him on the map and turned heads. It was one of the first times players took control of a protagonist who looked like a real person. His running animations were remarkably smooth, again, something completely unseen at the time. He would carry on this tradition, making high frame count, smooth running animations in A Boy and His Blob, but its roots come from Pitfall. Pitfall's gameplay is that of an action game. While not a platformer as we think of them today, the game does require some precise jumping. As you run across the screen, you'll have to avoid cobra rattlers, scorpions, logs, and even crocodiles. The crocodile heads can be used as platforms, but if you're standing in the wrong spot when they open their jaws, you'll become their lunch. You'll find yourself vine swinging across pits or bodies of water, and the game almost entirely boils down to timing. Speaking of time, you have 20 minutes to collect as much treasure as you can, but you won't need it because, frankly, unless you're moving at a snail's pace, you'll probably only be alive for a minute or two anyway. The game is easy to pick up and play, but it will take a long time to master. The game requires some precision timing, and every time I think I have it down, it turns out I'm wrong. Beyond that, the Atari's controller doesn't exactly lend itself to precise jumping mechanics. But it can be done. Perfect playthroughs have happened, and it's possible to pick up every single piece of the 32 treasures hidden in the game. You can beat the game, but basically the game just freezes when you do so there's no real reward or story-driven ending. While there's no music, there are some sound effects throughout the game, and despite being considered simplistic these days, they were fairly standard fare for the time. One of the most iconic sounds is the Tarzan yell that plays when you grab onto a vine and swing across a pit. Again, when you take into account the era that this game was released, having an iconic and identifiable sound like that just show up unexpectedly in a game must have immediately plastered smiles on the faces of the people who played the game. David Crane has recounted multiple times how he simply started the game with his little running man, then put that runner on a path, and decided the setting should be a jungle. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark may have contributed to the setting Pitfall ended up using, or it may have been entirely coincidence, but it is likely that the success of the movie helped boost sales of this game. Its excellent sales numbers helped cement Pitfall's place in video game history. But we're doing an episode of Our Story So Far TV here, so what can be said about Pitfall from a story perspective? Well, to be honest, not much, but there is this little bit right on the front cover of the manual to go by. Picture this. You're deep in the recesses of a forbidden jungle, an unforgiving place few explorers ever survive. But you've got courage, because you're with Pitfall Harry, the world-famous jungle explorer and fortune hunter extraordinaire. The lure of hidden treasures draws you and Harry deeper and deeper into the bush. But being a great explorer, you wouldn't think of starting such a difficult journey without reading this manual first. Very carefully. Inside the manual, you can also get tips about learning to play the game in a slightly easier way, by running to the left instead of the right. It makes avoiding the rolling logs a little easier, and the screens that load are certainly a bit more simple to start out on. The manual also mentions Pitfall Harry's Explorers Club, where players could submit photos of their high scores for one of the limited edition rewards patches Activision was sending out for several of their games at the time. And even though it's described as you joining Pitfall Harry on his adventure, the manual was written at a time when immersing yourself in gameplay was still about the amazement of controlling little computer people, to borrow a title from another of David Crane's games, on a screen. It's a game from a time when video games themselves were an experience all their own. Truth be told, this is one of the games that inspired Our Story So Far TV, even though it's taken over 60 episodes for me to get around to it. The concept started brewing in my mind back in 2010, And a lot of it started when I was thinking specifically about Pitfall. Knowing that the developer wanted you to experience something specific, he wanted you to be an adventurer, hunting for treasure in a jungle. Knowing that the imagery on screen conveyed the actual message in the manual. It wasn't just about triangles and squares battling it out. It wasn't about how vivid your imagination was. It was actually about dropping you into a very specific and detailed experience. It was about introductions and then letting you learn as you progress. It was about showing you the setting, the mechanics, and our story so far. Hey everybody, thanks for watching episode number 63 of Our Story So Far TV. I'm Garrett, aka New Angel, that's Nuangel, and you can find me on Twitter. If you enjoyed the video, likes and comments are great, but a subscription really goes a long way right now. It really helps to show that you're interested in the channel, and if you could share it with a friend, that would be awesome. If you enjoyed this, click around and watch a few more episodes, or if you can't find them, just go to ourstorysofar.tv. That's where I have every episode in 1080p quality, and links back here to the YouTube videos. I do my best to keep to a schedule of having a new video for you guys every 2 weeks, so be sure to check back for something new. Until next time, take care of yourself.